A quick little podcast about stand-up comedy. So if you want to if you just want to be a better public speaker, I recommend stand-up comedy. Study other public speakers, such as comedians, and like maybe TED Talks and things like that. And I'm sure there's a ton of videos on how to be a good public speaker, and it helps build your confidence big time. And again, it helps you, in your job if you work at like you're employed or something like that. It helps you be a better employee, and it definitely helps you have a better vehicle to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Right? I mean, you can get from here to Flagstaff in like 2 hours in a shitty car, but if you get there like in a helicopter, that's pretty tits. So Sherry didn't meal plan again, and so I didn't want to fight. So I was like, okay, let's just go out to eat, and it's Tuesday, so Taco Tuesday, and so I miss going out to comedy, and because it was a social thing too. Otherwise I don't do anything social. I just work, and again, I'm going to the moon. I got a lot of shit to do. And so anyways, we went out to Tempe Tavern, which is over there on Apache. It turns into Apache in Tempe in Mesa. It's Main Street. So it's over there. I'll put a link to it. It's a little dive bar, and it's sort of like a little, like if the punk scene from the 90s was still around, and it was sort of like, this is the OG place. It's really kind of a cool hip place for young people, right? If you get too old like me, you're not cool there anymore. So I used to go there, and then I would host the open mic over at Dos Gringos on Kyrene and Elliott for Jill Kimmel. And I'll try to keep this brief. I know I can keep it brief. I'm trying to cover a lot of information. That was one of the things that Sherry and I talked about tonight. Is we usually talk about the comedians, talk about who we liked, and sort of like coaching them, but we don't go up and tell them. Sometimes you can say, "Hey, good set," or congratulate them, or something like that, or whatever. Give them a high five or something coming off stage, just to kind of boost their confidence. But one of the critiques that we had, and then of course this is just between each other, is there's a guy tonight that had good material, but he had just poor delivery, meaning he was talking too fast, trying to do too many jokes, and trying to do jokes, like there's a setup and a punchline. And what I've seen with the top people, we're talking about like Tom Segura, Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Chris Rock, and those guys, they're storytellers. It's not about the jokes. You want to have a conversation with people and have that connection. But I left early, and a lady there who we met through some associates there, she was visiting, and I'm friends with her on Facebook, and she's an adult. She's got like 3 kids, and she knows the host, and we've gotten along, and we tell jokes back and forth, and she appreciated some of the work that I did, and it was just nice to see her, and nice to see another adult there instead of just these weirdo homeless. These guys are like 5 minutes from homeless, kind of addicts and characters, as they say. Oh, especially in that area right there in Tempe, downtown Tempe. So, but it was nice to see her, and she's like, "Why don't you go up?" And I was like, "I don't want to go up. I don't like these people." And that was really the honest answer about a lot of the community in here in Phoenix in general, like all of Phoenix. There's a lot of people that have a lot of attitudes where they shouldn't, and a lot of them. How do I say this? They do okay in a small pond, but they would never survive in a larger pond. So like a lot of comedians, when they get, I don't want to say big, but just, they feel really confident, they go to LA, and in LA, you're a dime a dozen, you're a nobody. And so you have to be really good in order to stand out. And you really have to, I don't want to say have a gimmick, but it helps to get noticed. And then once you have that opportunity, that's when you really want to allow yourself to shine. And if you look at and study the work that these top comedians, we're talking about really big headliners, they do, what they do is they have jokes, but they make it seem like they're having a funny conversation with you. And that's actually what I love doing here. That's why I like this format. You guys have been very receptive to me, and I can't talk about stereo stuff in comedy with these people. They're just, like I said, they're 5 minutes from homeless. They're not thinking about anything like that. They don't have any sort of education. They're not sophisticated at all. And then you only have 5 minutes to make an impression. So, but I put in my time, I put in my years. It was every week, at least one, if not two shows in that night. And I would write new material for every one. So like I would go and host Dos Gringos, which I really liked hosting because I would get more mic time. And also it allows me to play off of other comedians, whether they're good or bad. It gives me material to work with. And then I can, not that I always wanted to bring the attention to me, but I can use it to make funny. The whole idea is to entertain and put people at ease and bring some levity to some serious subjects. So if you can, that's because what I've realized is that when you're a good comic in the comedian world, right? And I'm not talking about the top pros. I'm talking about like if you're a touring comic, meaning you're on the road and you're doing these shitty gigs and you're staying in these shitty fucking condos, but you're a full-time comedian, like good job. Typically it's a niche subject comic, right? So there's a comic named Ty Rivera, and he's got skills and he's got talent, but he spends all of his time talking about gay stuff and trans stuff, and like somehow he's the queen of the community, and it's kind of off-putting. And then when I would see some of his material, his personal life leak out, and he's some gays are funny, and he was not a funny gay. He was like an angry gay, and that's never appealing. And really, what you're talking about is just an angry human being. So, Sherry and I talks about some other subjects coming home. I'll bring up in a minute, but when I first saw Ty perform, I was amazed. I was like, this guy's really funny. But he spent years honing that act, and he spent years. But he's got like face tattoos, and I'm not a big fan of that. And I'll link it to you, and you can find his videos on YouTube and listen to his story. It's weird because he was like really catty, but he would also ask for sympathy because of his botched surgeries and some other stuff. And it was just like, I don't know. It's like you realize that a lot of people are not mentally stable, typically including yourself. And again, like I said in a previous video about most people are actually bipolar. And I don't want to say sex addicts, but especially guys are testosterone driven. And that's why you guys watch this channel. So, and that's why I try to be, if anything, a mentor or the kind of uncle or father that you didn't have that you wish you had. And I'm preparing to die. That's what these videos are, is I'm preparing to die. And I want to set the example for you guys so that you can do the same for you and your family and the people that love you. And and YouTube allows you to pass on your experience and your stories, as minute as they might seem on a grander scale. They're very important to the people that are around you. And it's important to document your life in a way that is truthful, because it'll ring clear with humans in general. And that's what Sherry and I were getting around to, was that if you look at the top comedians, what they really get down to the core of is the human experience. And that's why, somebody like Dave Chappelle can talk about all kinds of subjects, because he has the hindsight and insight of being a human being and struggling through that. And it's funny. It's a lot like when I was in Hawaii. Hawaiians have a lot of superstitions, and I found it very entertaining, but they actually take it very serious. And there's a lot of superstitions and sort of misinformation in it's not just this community, but there's a lot of comedy communities, amateur communities, and they pass on this bad information. So one of them talks about how comedy is pain over time. And I even saw a comedian have that tattooed on her arm. And I'm like, okay, like, you don't need to put a tattoo on there, but she was young and anyways, I don't want to get into her. So, but anyways, I had a couple of run-ins with her. But the problem is that these comedians think that their pain serves them, and so they hang on to it, and that's a mistake. Where real comedy comes from is in hindsight, where you can talk about things where you were a fool in the past. And when people laugh at that, that's a confession. And listen to George Carlin, he talked about that. Those are confessions that you're hearing. That's not really laughter. And so what you end up doing is communing with these other human beings and sort of just taking a break from your life. And, that's one of the reasons why we went out tonight, was just kind of get a break and go out and do something different than just staying at home and eating and then go back to work. So, but if you really want to be a comedian, listen to people like Louis C.K., listen to people like Bill Burr, and talk about how they talk about their process and things like that. One of the things that I really appreciated about Louis C.K. was he was one of the, I don't want to say a pioneer, but he was one of the first top comedians to really completely throw away his old material after he does a special. And at the time when he started doing it, that was like unheard of in the comedy community. So, but most of the comedy community was people left over from the 80s and early 90s. And they would just go, and they were basically a road comic headliner, where, they would go to the casinos and things like that. And it was these little gigs, but Louis really took it to a different level by bringing you a new special, either once a year or once every other year or whatever it was. And if you go back and look at some of his older specials, it's gold. It's complete gold. But if you come back out and repeat that same material, to him, he said, if I was an audience member and I come out to see a comedian that I love and they talk about the same jokes that they did fucking even 3 years ago, let alone 10 years ago, it tells you that they're not really trying, and that they may not be as genius or as brilliant as what you hoped that they were, or even what you thought they were. I saw Sinbad perform when I was in the Air Force, and I saw another performance of him, and it was the same fucking jokes, and the period was like 5 or 6 years apart, and I felt bad for him, but he's got like a zillion kids and he's got bills to pay, so it's I understand now, and I understand better about why people would you do what works, and if somebody gives you a TV show, you fucking use that opportunity and you pay your bills. It depends on what situation you're in, and that's why for me, this whole thing with Scott Dilbeck, Scott doesn't understand that I'm burning my bridges by doing these videos. I don't want to do car audio for the rest of my life. I think it's a fun hobby, and I think it's a neat way to express myself and come out with cool stuff for you guys. But I don't have any money, so everything that I do is on a super tight budget, and I think I've done amazing for the budget that I've been on. Now, if I can sell a couple screenplays and produce a movie and direct a movie, then what I can do is integrate the brand, like an audio brand or some sort of electronics brand or device or invention that I have, into the movie. And that's a huge platform to have. Like, people pay millions of dollars to have product placement in a movie. And if I'm able to not only develop back and establish the brand and then deliver it inside of a movie that's awesome, that is fucking killer. And that's the kind of deals that I want to do. And so these, I watch the ocean of YouTube that is advice videos and DIY and all this kind of stuff, and it's garbage. And I see the same thing that I saw in the comedy community here in Phoenix. It's just garbage. And just because someone has 10,000 subscribers doesn't mean they're good. It just means they have 10,000 subscribers. So I get that compliment all the time. People are like, "Oh, Patrick, your channel should be bigger." And I go, "Dude, I have not been talking about this kind of stuff yet. The the whole point of fucking Robot Underground is to be fucking underground, right? I had to tell somebody that today. They're like, you should advertise. I'm like, Harriet Tubman did not advertise, okay? You either knew about the underground or you fucking didn't. And if you didn't, that's fucking okay, you know? So, and, you know, I never wanted to be famous. And I still don't. I still want to have a very discreet life. I don't mind controlling wealth. But I certainly don't want any sort of notoriety that impedes my life. That's like a terrible compromise, and I certainly don't want to do it. I want to be a very relatable human being. And to me, what's funny is a lot of people look at like Elon Musk and they go, "Oh, you're a god, dude." He's constantly telling you that you can do what he does. He's constantly telling everyone that they can achieve what he has. And, you know, people keep giving him all these accolades and this and that. And it's, you know, you don't want to turn down a compliment, and you certainly don't want to turn down like $1 billion loan so that you can turn into, you know, 10 billion. So, you know, he has to play the field and compromise, you know, and prioritize what's important, what's not. You know, how can you make a change in life? How can you be effective on the budget that you have? If Elon had more money, he would do way more cool shit. And that's what I want to do. I want to do things as punk as Elon does. And if you don't know the definition of punk, it's about rebellion, and it's about sticking it to the fucking man right in the butthole. And that's why I say what I say about JL and the brands and all that kind of stuff. Those guys are just machines, and they just want to eat you up, and they don't give a shit. And I think as humans and as designers and engineers, and in this field that I'm in, we can do better. So, well, you know, and I think about, you know, where I came from. I came from a skateboarding background. For years and years, I was totally into just enveloped until I got into stereos. But for many years, I was really into skateboarding. And one of the people that I've watched over the years, of course, is the original Bones Brigade, and especially somebody like Lance Mountain, who there's a great Powell Peralta documentary on that Stacy did, or did he do it? I think his son actually did it. And it talks about the Bones Brigade and talks about, you know, all these stories and things like that. And I really related to Lance Mountain. And now he's just a really cool guy that has a really cool life, and he gets to express himself, and his art is known all over the world, and he still gets to do what's fun and rewarding to him. And he has a family, and it's just wonderful. And I think if you just shoot for that kind of life, it's a lot easier. If you have big ambitions, be prepared. Be prepared. Oh my God, it's going to require so much work, and don't be afraid to fail and swing big. That's how you learn. What was it? We had counseling today, and we were talking about how just corrupt local politics are. And I was, you know, at the time, this is probably a year ago, I was looking at properties all over rural Arizona, and one of the things I was afraid of was going into a town, and there was this it wasn't a cotton gin, but it was a tin warehouse that was made to store cotton, and it was a mining and cotton town. And that's the 3 C's that Arizona has been known for, which was cattle, cotton, and copper. But so anyways, it was like 50,000 square feet. It was fucking perfect for me. And it was only like 200 grand. And I'm like, that's something I can really afford. That's something I can fix up and I can really make. The problem is that the town was so connected. There's no way an outsider like me could come in. Like, I'm a carpetbagger to them. Like, I'm ruining everything for them. You know, and it's that good old boy thing. And my counselor talked about, like, in the old days in Gilbert and in like the 70s, you'd go into a restaurant and you'd be sitting there eating, and then somebody would ask you to move because the regular that felt like that seat was his wanted you to move. And the owner of the restaurant would ask you to move. And that's the way it was, you know, and it typically was like some well-established, rich landowner, Mormon family for here in Gilbert. I'm sure that sort of thing has happened and is still happening all over the country. You know, again, that's why they're called blue bloods. So, but back to stand up. As far as I never got into stand up because I loved stand up. I mean, I love seeing performers, but I got into it because I read. Number one, I had a dream, and I on December 25th, 2007, I had the dream, which I call a Jewish Christmas movie, and I realized that I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I wanted to really make this a real thing. And once I was going over in counseling today about the pivot points in my life where life changed big time, and my priorities became more aligned and more streamlined the bigger that I dreamt. And so in my journey to be a filmmaker, I came across a book by Patrick Lennon, and sorry, I forgot Junior's name. It's Dangle and Junior from, I'll put a link to it in the description. Junior and Dangle's How to Make Money or How to Make Movies for Profit and Fun. And in that, they talk about a lot of lawyer stuff and things like that. But one of the things they talk about is getting noticed by doing stand-up. And the guy that played Junior on Reno 911, he actually got the job as the Taco Bell Chihuahua for, while that was still kosher. But he got it by doing stand-up, and somebody saw his stand-up and they thought he was funny. And they, it's when you were doing voice work like that or something like that, it's good to have improvisational skills. You bring value to the project and you help out in the production. You don't get paid for it, but you definitely get favor. And so anyways, one of the things they talked about was doing stand-up to get noticed and also to be a better public speaker. And if you just want to be a better public speaker, go out there. It's risky, and it makes your fucking heart race and your palms sweat, and it helps you get over stage fright and just being more confident as a person. And what you realize is once you're writing jokes, especially if you're writing jokes every week and a new 5-minute set for yourself, you'll realize that you have a lot to say. And like I was telling you earlier in the video, Sherry and I realized that a lot of these guys, there wasn't a lot of comics tonight, so Jeremy gave them 7 minutes, which is too long for that format. There's too much time for that format, and so what ends up happening is people drag ass, and it gets long and boring, and so Sherry and I decided to leave early. But I will follow it up. I left early, and my friend Elizabeth was she's like, "Where are you? Why don't you go up?" And I said, "I have 4,500 fucking subscribers waiting for me at home." And she's like, "Oh, you're a YouTuber star. You're too good for us." And I go, "It's not that at all. It's that these people are receptive to what I'm saying. It's a receptive audience, and that's the biggest thing that I was missing when I was going and doing these dive bars and fucking open mics, and you got these bitter little people that are just like out for you and trying to embarrass you, and because they don't like you for whatever reason it is. So I've talked about this in a previous video where, last time I went there, I asked Jeremy, the host, Jeremy Ditto, and I said, why do other comedians do not like me? And he goes, "You don't need this." It's like, "What do you mean I don't need this?" And he's like, "Dude, you already have like a career. In fact, you don't even have a job. You have an organization and a nice house and all these other things that they don't have." He says, "And so you come out here for fun." And I go, "Yeah, because it's fun. Like, why wouldn't they do that? It's not fun for them, and it's not fun for them. So for them, it's their only thing. And so they have a different, I don't want to say respect, because it's definitely not respect, but they have a different priority for what they're doing. And the problem that they don't see is that they're fucking angry and they can't get over it. And what I realized is that if you work on yourself as a human, if you work on being a better, more responsible, alert, assertive person, you become a better comedian and you become a better public speaker, and you might even become a better human being trying to do good in the world. Right? Because right now that's really rare, is for good people to have good intentions and then follow it through with good actions. That is fucking rare, and that makes you worth more than all the gold. And that's where you want to be, because then people are like, "Wow, I really like what you're saying." And of course, you're not going to get paid up front. You have to prove yourself, and you have to prove your value. So Sherry and I were talking about that the other night about Matthew McConaughey. Or no, we were talking about The Rock. So Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson's big problem right now is that he doesn't have enough time to shoot this earthquake movie that he did a couple of years back, and they want to shoot a sequel. And he had to turn them down because of scheduling, because he's already made commitments to these other projects. And I just thought, wow, that's a really, I bet you that they're going to come back with more money, which is basically put up or shut up. Or what they're going to do is substitute, like they just did with the Jack Reacher series on Amazon, is they find some no name and then they give it a go. And, and God bless them, I don't remember the actor's name in Vikings. Vikings is a great series up until about season 3, season 4. It gets a little distracted, but that guy, he was not really popular, and he became popular, and he used it as a platform to be a closer version of himself. And when you look really inside of a human being, and they allow you to look inside them, you'll see yourself, and you'll see all of us as humanity, and you'll see the good and the pain and all the struggle and all that stuff, the frustration of just being a human. And then being in this, societies that aren't fair and unjust, and all the other terrible things, and that's even in America. Outside of that, it's according to Trump, it's a fucking shithole. You need to get out. There's a lot of shitholes in America. But so what I'm saying is, learn how to be and learn how to identify yourself. Learn how to be a better version of yourself. And then what you'll soon find is when you start asserting yourself, meaning setting boundaries, following up with commitments, following up with, keeping those boundaries and being true to yourself, you are going to lose a lot of friends. And that's where, if you listen to Jordan Peterson talk about stuff, he's right on the money. And I'm so glad that he came out. I mean, I wish he came out some years later, but he was getting his own shit together. So for even him, and now he's like at the top of his game, and he's fucking sharp, man. Talk about articulate, man. He has thought out so many processes that really help me put together a lot of stuff that I felt in my heart, but I couldn't figure out how to put words to. And so I highly recommend watching those. And I'll stay focused on this one, which was just basically about doing stand-up. So, but be a well-rounded human being, and you don't need to go to college to be a well-rounded human being. So do things for other people. It'll make you feel better. Keep your promises. It'll make everyone feel better. Remember that every ounce of pain, every terrible event in your life was because someone didn't keep their promise. And so if you can do your little bit by keeping your promise, that prevents a tragedy. And I hope you take that home tonight. And you guys know I love you, and that's why I tell you. It's a confirmation of how I feel, and it's an expression, and I hope everyone does well. Even Scott Dilbeck. Is it Dilwick? Fuck, I forgot again. One thing is great though is when you Google his name now, my video is the first thing that comes up. So, but I want to give Scott plenty of time to respond or make a video or do something to justify his behavior. Otherwise, he's toast. So, and I actually hope success for him. I hope success for everyone. I don't wish any bad things on anyone. That's horrible. And there's room for success for everyone. Now, why somebody else would attack someone, that's a problem. And that's the only thing that I did and called him out on. And if you look at the video, I staged everything as a question. I'm not making any accusations. I certainly have my opinion, but that's just my opinion. And there's other people that are friends with him that have had their opinions. And I want to welcome the conversation as a forum on my channel. And I want to give him the platform that I've built and done by giving you something of value. Okay, that's what has been created here, is something of value, and that's what I want to bring to you. Am I going to cash in? Sure, eventually. But again, what am I going to do? You can't fucking ride 2 jet skis at the same time. So, and that's not my goal in life. My goal in life is not money, but money helps me do the things I really want to do. And so, and I want to help you guys. I would love for people to be able to stay home with their kids and be a decent human being and be a decent parent. God, if people just tried to do that, that would be amazing. But if you go out and you blow your money on the fucking dunes and on stupid stereo shit that you're not making any money on, and shoes, just garbage, and TVs, and fucking blowing all your time on video games, it's not going to ever pay off. There's no payoff for saving the princess in Super Mario Brothers. Believe me, I saved her several times. No payoff. There's zero. So the next thing you can do is go out and do something physical or activity or something like that. But what's even better is if you do a physical activity for your community. If you go out and pick up trash, if you go out and mow somebody's lawn that is a cripple or a old or whatever, or just like you've seen me do. I don't know if I filmed it, but I go through my neighborhood that we walk the dogs in, that we run the dogs in, and I spray weeds. I spray for weeds. It's something that I can do, and it's cheap, and it's fucking rewarding when I go back out there and I dig them up and all that kind of stuff. I love doing that stuff, and I wish I had the money to afford a bunch of laborers to do that. But I don't, and that's why I need to think bigger, and I need to solve bigger problems, and I'll be rewarded for those things by way of money. And then what you do with the money, that's what really determines, and probably you should be judged by, is your intent and then your follow through. So, but I'll leave you with that. This rant/podcast was brought to you by Husky Tools. When you can't afford, or if you realize that Husky makes the tools the same way in China or India, and it's polished whatever something material, and it's affordable at fucking Home Depot, but it comes in stupid orange packaging, you understand that you don't need a $100 wrench to turn a bolt, okay? So, but that's my other problem with Snap-on in general and Snap-on people. There's an old picture on my Instagram, or at least there was, I posted it, when I took over the property here, which was that of my mechanic for many years, Bob Beatty. Mikey Jones was his apprentice and also helper. And one of the things I found was an old metal cart, and it was a fine. It's ugly as shit, but it works and it holds shit. And they had written in like little paint pen, they had written Snap-on on it. And that's all Snap-on does. They take a good product and then they put their name on it, and then they overcharge for it and give you a lifetime warranty, when the only reason for the tool to break is if it's, like you've abused it. Right. And so, but if if you break it and they bring it back, you've already paid for 10 in the first place. And that's what kind of bugs me about this guy, Scott, is that he's taken this attitude and trying to feed you this bullshit. And then he comes after me. Oh, that's rich. And it's not just me. It's some other people that he came after too. So, and I'm hearing all kinds of stories and dirt. And I want to give Scott a fair chance to rectify the situation and his behavior. And if he doesn't, then to the shredder. So, but I love you guys. Take care. Choose love. Choose love over hate. Choose handies over hate. I wish our society was more open about helping teenagers get hand jobs. But it's not. But, like you can do what my dad did. My dad knew that I was 14 and he didn't want to take me to the lake because I had a broken leg. And basically I was lame, like lame literally and also lame, like, metaphorically, because I would be a burden on everybody going onto a boat, something like that, with a cast on my leg. So it was just a walking cast and I was already walking on it. And he left me home alone with Angelina. And, I did what Chandler boys do. And for me, I thought I romanced her. So, but yeah, and I got to score with a 31-year-old girl, and it was awesome. And it was delightful. And so I you know what? I've been watching F for Family, and I want to bring back molestation. That's right. Kevin lost his virginity to the girl next door, and it was Vic's girlfriend. It was great. And I think the baby in whatever it is, season 3 or 4. I think that's Kevin's baby, which is kind of cool. So, but anyways, watch F is for Family, watch Bill Burr, watch all these top comedians perform, and study their work and study how you can turn their experience and their stories into gold in your life, and make your life better and the lives around you better. So I love you. Take care.